Hello! Oh, that's very loud. I forgot I had that turned up. Hello! And we're doing another kind of podcasty thing. So I had this idea while I was at work, listening to a good old Mr. Joey Pokeaim video, while he was talking about the importance of heavy duty boots. And I thought to do something a little bit similar. So I'm joined with Snom. Say hello.
I don't know what's going on with my mic, but something's going on.
And Rat.
Hello, everyone, and while you're here, subscribe to Winda or else.
I'd hope you're already all subscribed to Window.
Yes. Please do. So the idea about the idea was talking about the importance of heavy duty boots, and they kind of made Pokemon made it a point as, is it heavy duty boots fault or is it Hazard's fault that we've become so accustomed to Hazards as part of a metagame, as like a part of our metagame, that like we feel they have to be in the game, and you know, should they be suspect tested or whatever. And so what I wanted to do was kind of talk about and theorize what a metagame would look like without hazards. So no stealth rocks, no spikes, no T-spikes, no sticky web, none of that. All gone.
I think the metagame would either be more or less passive, and I don't know which, because there's solid arguments for both sides. Because it'd be less passive in a sense where there's a lot less residual damage going on, so Stealth Teams would have to rely more on stuff like Toxic and Sandstorm, and Siphon Toss and PP stalling. But it's also more passive because Stealth Rock is an offensive tool into, like, take Gen 4 into example. Every single offensive calip has to be done with Stealth Rock into the picture. So, like, just specific calcs like +2 Lucario post-combat killing Skarmory after Stealth Rock. If there's no Stealth Rock, then suddenly Skarmory becomes a lot tankier. So the offensive Pokemon are neutered just as, almost as much as the defensive.
Yeah. Right, any initial thoughts?
My first thought is you mentioned Skarmory, and that made me very glad because I was just about to mention how huge of a nerf it gets without being able to spike stack and those stealth rocks.
Yeah,
That was
Spikes,
its biggest niche.
Spikes was, I wouldn't say it's its identity in Gen 3, 4, and 5, because that's not my place to say. I didn't play any of those metagames. But a lot of its claim to fame, from what I understand of those metagames, is that it was so reliable in switching and taking hits and forcing opponents out as they got to set up spikes. And the fact that that's not an option is really annoying. And that also makes moves like Whirlwind on a lot less usable.
Yeah. At this point, Whirlwind is just for setup sweepers.
Yeah. It's for setup sweepers and just, like, I guess getting Magneton out of your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting thing to think about, because like you say, Skarmory's one where you think about Pokemon that can set hazards. Another one I was thinking about was Hippowdon. That's another one that's like a very bulky stealth rock setter. And also a bulky, very staple in Gen 8 OU right now, Defogger, Corviknight. That suddenly loses one of its big utilities, of just being able to
defog. A lot of
defog.
Pokemon lose out on a lot of utility. Like, suddenly Clefable is not nearly as highly valued as it is. Like, and to be fair, it's already a trend with boots, but just removing hazards entirely, and that also, like, it's just such a chain reaction, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because if you make boots irrelevant, then suddenly we get to a metagame where knockoff is a lot less important. It's also a lot more important because there's no Mega Crystals and Z Crystals. So it's still important to have the intel, but you're also not affecting the amount of passive damage something takes when it comes in. And I guess to the effect of, like, the difference in the importance of hazards between Gen 7 or Gen 8 and the other metagames, I can kind of talk on that because I'm currently in a Gen 6 draft league myself.
Okay.
And hazards in that league are so unbelievably important. Like, I didn't understand how much Gen 6 really just favors Mega Sableye.
Yeah.
Because those who know me know I shit on Mega Sableye a lot in draft. I say it's bottom 2 Dark type Mega along with Absol. But in Gen 6, you take the gen where most fairy types are pretty bad, and you make hazards really important and really difficult to get rid of, and like over centralizing.
Yeah, there wasn't as many good fairies, like you say. There was no Tapus. Like even looking at OU, there was no Tapus. That was the main one really. Like no Tapus.
Yeah, there are no Tapus. There's no like Magirna, which was a big one.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And a lot of Pokemon were just kind of worse.
No Primarina
Like-
either. Like there's
Yeah, Florida's didn't have Defog back then.
nope. So like you were basically stuck with like Clefable, Megagani, and that was like it.
You had Clefable, because by this point Maul was banned. Gardevoir, and I guess Togekiss. And that
Yeah.
was about it.
That was your fairy pool. And so
And
like
in this draft league, my fairy type is Togetic, which is really sad.
but yeah, like as a result, things like Mega Sableye, especially 'cause, like also speed change, the speed changes to Megas, like to Sableye was one of the worst.
Yeah, like Sableye was like so specifically screwed over by so many of Gen 7's mechanics.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
fairy types were everywhere, defog was more widespread, so hazards mattered less. Prankster nerfed, so it didn't affect dark types, on top of it not being able to have both Prankster and Magic Mouth on the same turn. Like, it just kind of... And then Z Crystals making its already poor bulk, or like mediocre bulk without leftovers even more apparent.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with making knockouts less important. So it's like... And they nerfed the burn damage, so they just nerfed Mega Sableye in so many ways. In
Yeah.
Gen 7.
I guess speaking of which, you mentioned Mega Sableye, but like that also means like Magic Bounce is less valuable. So
It's still valuable.
it's still valuable, but like one of the big ones is just like it's such a deterrent for rocks. So like it's not as relevant in like Gen 8 OU, for example, but for Nat decks where you've got Mega Diancie as a pretty prominent Pokemon,
Yeah.
that loses
Even
some
then-
of its value.
Diancie doesn't really want to switch into most rockers, considering a lot of them are ground and steel. Like, a lot of good rockers are ground types and steel types.
Yeah.
Which is bad. But, like, yes, Mega Sableye, Xatu, when it in, like, lower tiers, of course, is a big one.
How dare you forget Espeon?
Oh yeah, Espeon has Magic Bounce.
Espeon with Magic Bounce is kind of like Absol with Magic Bounce. It's nice, but it's also really frail.
Yeah, for me, like, it's just such an interesting topic to cover. Like, so I think Rapid Spin, just because of the buffs recently, like, it would still see play, like, Rapid Spin Excadrill, Rapid Spin Starmie, like, actually might still have a reason to exist.
I wouldn't say Starmie. I would say Excadrill, I would say Serena, and I would say Hitmontop. I'm not sure if I would say Starmie.
Starmie's already pretty fast, to be fair, yeah, but, like, just a way to boost their speed to give them sweeping potential.
Yeah, without restrictions of choice scarf. I just say Starmie wouldn't want Rapid Spin because Starmie already has some of the worst form moves lost Syndrome out of any Pokemon, period.
Yeah. But, you know...
Because you want your Dual Stab, you want your Bolt Beam, you want Recovery, you want Flip Turn, all already, that's 6.
Yeah. But, like, default, this is irrelevant. Irrelevant. Completely done.
Yeah.
You
You get rid of screens, but, like, HO isn't that prominent, and even then, HO doesn't have webs because there's no hazards.
Yeah.
And HO doesn't have Spike Stack Mew. So...
Of course, Swirlix. It loses its best job as the best Weber in the game.
No, the best Weber in the game is Blackable. I will die on that grave. We both won respective championships with respective web setters.
Swirlix hard carried me.
My ass was carried by a combination of a bunch of Pokemon because I had a broken team.
Is it also...
and that's-
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
There's one interesting Pokemon that I want to talk about, however, because I think this Pokemon is going to be one that's would really interest me. Pokemon that's been staple since Gen 5, since it's been introduced. I'm talking the big cat, Landorus Firion.
Oh wait,
Oh,
I thought you were gonna say Volcarona.
Volcarona.
No, we'll talk about Volcarona soon. But Landorus is an interesting one, and probably one that made me really think the most, because defensive Landorus has become pretty common. You know, you give it a Rocky Helmet, you give it Stealth Rocks, knock off U-turn. And then you think about it for half a second, then you go, wait a minute. It no longer gets Stealth Rocks. It can't defog anymore. Knockoff isn't as valuable now due to no boots. So, what does defensive Lando do anymore? And does that mean that defensive Lando maybe starts to phase out and people decide to go more of an offensive Lando? Or do people still resort to this defensive Landorus due to its, its bulk and its intimidate and its good pivoting, but they have to figure out some other way to use it.
I actually think this makes defensive Landorus a little better, because all of a sudden now it has more move slots. You get rid of the need for Stealth Rock and Defog, and you make Knockoff less prevalent. Granted, I still think it would run Knockoff.
It would probably still
But
run
now you
knockoff.
Now you can run, like... First off, you don't have to worry about Stealth Rock on your own defensive Landorus, which is one of the biggest worries about defensive Landorus, because it doesn't have any way of healing itself, and which is really bad in this current meta.
Yeah.
And so you already take that chip away. You take his move slots away, so it becomes a little less versatile, but it also has a lot more like slappability on those teams because it doesn't have to be so reliant on certain things. So I actually think this would be more of a buff to defensive Landers than anything. There's also like niche cases like Scarf says no longer have to run Defog, because that's sometimes a thing that you see on Scarf Landers. You see EQ, U-turn, knockoff, Defog. But now you don't have to worry about that. Now you can run like Stone Edge in the last slot, because we all know how much Rat loves Stone Edge on Landorus.
Oh my god. The first ever actual league I was in, every single time I ran Stone Edge Lando, it missed, no matter what.
It was really funny. We all make fun of him for using Rock Slide.
Because I know my luck.
Yeah.
And like, everyone was like, you should just use Rock Slide. The odds of missing aren't that high. Every single time it missed. And then I went back to using Rock Slide.
That was also when my Houndoom went off versus you, but that's a different conversation.
That was also the league where Lyric destroyed me with that fish.
the infamous match. Yeah, no, it's just, I guess, so, like, yeah, it would free up move slots, but, like, would it still not run the attack investment, or would it maybe consider some more attack investment now to make use of, the fact that it's not going to be using, it's not just going to be clicking rocks and U-turning all the time now. It still has, obviously, incredible attack, let's not,
I has 145 attack.
Listen, I've got Lando T in UBL, and running calcs with this thing is not okay.
It scares me.
Why does defensive Landorus 3-hit KO Aggron?
Oh god.
It's
but
dumb.
I think defensive Landorus would actually stick around for one reason. Snom's favorite mon, Weavile.
Yeah, let's talk about Weavile, shall we? Because Weavile was another one I was thinking about. So Weavile.
I love Weavile.
So Weavile obviously right now standard sets. You either run Choice Band and you don't care about rocks. You just come in, you slap things with Knockoff and Triple Axle and clean up the game with the Ice Shard, or you run Boots because you have to run Boots so it can come in a lot freer and actually set up Sword Dance. And Sword Dance.
Life Orb because you're a hypocrite.
Or you run Life Orb because you're a hypocrite and you just.
That was so funny to me.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, yeah. So, but like Sword Dance with Boots has been pretty common, just because it rose back up to OU recently from BL, just because turns out if you get Sword Dance with Weavile, and you can get it in a lot safer due to not having to care about hazards, you still do crazy damage. But what if Weavile didn't have to run Boots? And I think this is one of the arguments for saying the metagame might be a bit more aggressive, because suddenly Weavile doesn't have to run Boots, and it can just run a Life Orb, or, unless you're a hypocrite, or, you just don't want to run Life Orb, you can just run, like, Black Glasses or something, I don't know.
You can run Focus Sash. Okay, so
that was... Yeah, Focus Sash is the big one, right? Imagine a metagame with no hazards. Focus Sash becomes so much better.
Because we've never had a metagame with Focus Sash plus, like, a commonly avoidable hazard.
Yeah.
Because I think we had Focus Sash in Gen 3. Flying
no, it was Gen 4 Focus Sash.
Yeah, Gen 4 gave Focus Sash, but I'm saying if they gave it in, like, Gen 3,
yeah,
when Flying types were still immune to spikes, I think that could have been really useful.
But instead, Focus Sash was introduced with Gen 4 and Stealth Rocks, and so, like, Focus Sash really hasn't seen as much play as we probably would have. It's still seen play every now and then, but it's not seen as much as maybe we would have. But with the removal of hazards, I think Focus Sash Weavile with Sword Dance could be very threatening. Focus Sash Gartana was something I was thinking about.
Oh yeah.
That
I would like to speak on the point of Weavile, because in the Gen 6 league I mentioned earlier, I actually have Weavile. I finally took my mascot. So Yeah, I did take Weavile, and I can say from personal experience of being in a league with Weavile without boots, hazards are so constricting on it.
Yeah.
Because Weavile's bulk is kind of weird. Because you look at the numbers, and it's like surprisingly decent for what you'd expect. So like it can actually take a few resisted hits. Like it can take 2 spec shadow balls from Dragon Ball, for example. Like it can surprisingly take some resisted hits and even some neutral hits.
Yeah.
But Stealth Rock makes it so much less likely, especially since Weavile as a Pokemon is usually going to be a Choice Bander or Swords Dancer, so it's probably going to have to switch in multiple times to get an opportunity, and when you throw Stealth Rock in the mix, that becomes really dicey. So I think a metagame without Stealth Rocks would be so beneficial for Weavile, just because it'd be a lot more free in what it can do. Granted, it still can't switch in effortlessly, but like now it can come in on like a double switch, a basically double switch with on U-turn. It can come in on a teleport. Hell, even just a hard read, or on a Pokemon that doesn't threaten him much, like maybe Blissey. I think Weavile becomes a lot more free, and it doesn't have to feel so constricted. Be running only band and boots, and it can run other stuff. Like I remember back in Gen 7, I used to run like a Z Dig Weavile because I wanted to make that thing viable in OU, so I ran Z Dig so I could beat Magirin and Toxapex.
That's beautiful.
Did it work?
Yes, a lot.
I mean, it's not something you would expect, so of course it's gonna get some play. It's gonna catch people off guard.
It worked a lot, like so much. Like Heatran's would come in, they'd go for Protect to Scout, and I'd click Knock Off on that turn, and then just Z Dig.
Yep.
Atomic Rage them.
So yeah, Weavile's like a big one where it's like it becomes a lot more, it becomes a lot easier to get in, and as a result, and freeing up that item slot just makes it so much more free to do what it wants. And other Pokemon...
It's more versatile and flexible in the battle itself. I still think in prep it's going to be relatively homogenous. You're still going to run like the same 6 moves every single time.
Oh yeah, that doesn't change, but like...
The in-battle flexibility is just so nice.
As we kind of hinted to earlier, let's talk about Volcarona.
Volcarona would be banned, 100%.
Absolutely.
No questions asked. Especially in Gen 5 with Weather Wars, you put Volcarona on Sun or Rain, it'd be banned instantly.
Yeah, one of the few things... The thing is with Volcarona, right, is so hazards are what keep it in check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So right now it's forced to run boots. But what would you be running on Volcarona otherwise? Would it be charcoal or...
Specs.
Charcoal or
I'd say
leftovers? Lung?
That was the one that ran in Gen 7 a lot. It either ran Lum or Pokeaim.
Okay.
It might also run Helmet to more take advantage of the physically defensive set because it uses Flame Body a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, so the thing is with Volk is it's like right now it's running boots and obviously it's very good, right? It's it's I wouldn't say it's centralizing. It's the best it's ever been, right? And that's as a result of it not having to take 50% from Stealth Rocks. But my issue is like, again, so it would run Lum, it would run Leftovers, and maybe Charcoal. And that's really about it. Like, it doesn't really... If you're going for, like, a Quiver Dance set, it doesn't really have anything else it needs to necessarily run.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I feel like the Safeguard set might fizzle out. Might is a big word. It still might be there. Just to help deal with Blissey even more so. And I think Blissey is absolutely a Pokemon that is benefited from no hazards because it doesn't have to fear knockoff as much, but that's a different argument.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that Volcarona has always been pretty restricted in what item it runs, just because it kind of has to be. So I feel like it being quote-unquote forced into Lum, it's not really forced, it's just kind of the best item for it. And it becoming a little more homogenized doesn't matter as much when it can click Quiver Dance once, and it can decimate unprepared teams, or even weakened teams. And sometimes it doesn't even need that Quiver Dance to do so, because of how strong its stabs are.
For sure.
Because, like, okay, let's look at where Hex was in usage for the last month. Usage stats. Usage stats for July. Because I feel like I remember seeing Hex, like, lower than it usually is. Oh, never mind. It was number 9. But even then, it was only like 13% usage. And let's see, where was Volcarona? Volcarona was number 11. So I think if you go to hazards, once again, Volcarona is not as afraid of knockoff, which is a big thing. And that can make it even better utilize its Flame Orb and potentially Rocky Helmet. Because you can just get some nice chip on those things. You can do a free 20% and then threaten them to Quiver Dance in front of your face.
Yep.
And I think just like, I don't know, the removal of boots, or not the boots, the removal of hazards would just, it make the metagame so different that it's kind of hard to speculate based on how it's been growing now. I don't know.
It's a hard one to think about, but like that's why we're theorizing it, because I think it's a very interesting one to think about. So does Volcarona become an over-centralizing force that it has to get banned just because you don't have to even you don't have to force Stealth Rocks up and then try and get a knockoff and then force it out, but like a smart player with Volcarona anyway will recognize when they can bring in Volcarona, set up and win the game anyway. So does that matter when like boots already exist? So
I think especially in older generations, Volcarona would be banned.
Oh, in older gens banned, yeah, sure. Like it's as you say, Gen 5, yeah.
Gen 5 banned, Gen 7 banned easily, Gen 6 probably banned, when the best 2 Pokemon are Clefable and Mega Metagross. Okay. Let me just bring in my Volcarona, set up to plus 13 and win.
Yeah, it's a very scary Pokemon to go against. And unprepared teams will lose to it, but unprepared teams already lose to it. So
I still think it becomes banned in Gen 8 just because of the mid-battle flexibility and the item flexibility. I think those, because Volcarona is already like a Pokemon that's seen as unbeatable and over-centralizing in its own right. You see Volcarona, you're like, which of its 4 sets is it going to be? And what is my plan for any of the 4 of them? Do I have a solid plan for all 4 of them, or if it's a specific one, do I just instantly lose?
I suppose I think even though the item doesn't matter as much, the fact that like right now you know it's going to be boots, or at least like 90% of the time, unless someone's absolutely insane, it's gonna be boots. Like that's like a sort of comfort. It's like, okay, you already know that, but like, is it gonna be Lum without Safeguard? Is it gonna, or even with Safeguard, maybe, I don't know. Is it gonna be Leftovers? Is it gonna be a boosting item? You know, you don't know that yet.
Is it going to be Charty Berry, so it wards off potential revenge killing? Is it going to be Focus Sash, so it can, on a more offensive set on a hyper offense team? Is it going to be like, I don't know, sub Quiver Dance, because now it can play around with its health more, and sub down to like a speed boosting Pinch Berry or something? I don't fucking know.
The amount of versatility it gets from the removal of hazards is just insane.
Yeah, because it's not even like it's bad that it's forced into boots. It'd probably run boots even if it wasn't Self Rock Week. It still run boots to an extent if it was like 2 times Self Rock Week. It's just nearly impossible to pass up the utility that Self Rock gives you, or that boots give you.
Yeah.
Even with Defogger so readily apparent, because it just gives you so much breathing room. I don't know. I think Volcarona would be absolutely bonkers.
It would be very good. It would, again, the thing is as well as it also depends on the rest of the metagame, which let's talk about another very powerful, very sort of controversial special attacker in Kyurem.
Oh god.
So obviously spec sets don't care because it's specs and it's always gonna like that's always a thing. Scarf, I guess, the same kind of deal, but. Then we get to the Sub-Roost set, and Sub-Roost set then gets access to Leftovers and can switch in without the worry of Stealth Rocks, and that becomes a little...
Life Orb!
Please, no.
I think it actually ran Life Orb in Gen 7, because I used to play some Gen 7 UU, and I think it ran Life Orb occasionally. It was still usually Leftovers, but I remember seeing a few Life Orbs here at the Sub-Roost, just because its bulk and longevity is already really good.
Yeah. But that was in UU, and now it's in OU because of one fucking move. Why did they give this mon Freeze Dry? I don't
Cold
get it.
Dragon scares me.
Look, Kyurem was never like that good, like in Gens Past. I think it was banned from UU in Gen 5 and 6, and then it was EU Gen 7. But even then, like, it's in UU, and the best Pokemon is Scizor. Hooray! There's also Latios that just offensively destroys it. There's also Altaria that's immune to Draco Meteor. So like, I feel like Kyurem getting freeze dry isn't like that, like unreasonable.
I mean, it makes it so that bulky waters aren't to switch in.
Yeah, but like, you never wanted to switch him in on Dracos, and even then, the spec set was never a thing in UU. It was mainly in OU, just
Finny,
'cause it's
Finny
very
isn't
OU
to
freeze
switch in
dry.
anymore.
Yeah. You remove Feeny and Prim as like hard counters, which is awesome.
Yeah, and now
Well, maybe
it
not-
doesn't have
Maybe
that.
not Prim. I love Prim.
But as like I say, I think the fact that this thing gets leftovers, or again, if you're crazy, Life Orb, on the sub-roost set where you can pressure stall things down and just consistently do good damage, definitely makes it a lot scarier. And again,
Yeah.
you switch it, I think as well, again, it comes to that versatility factor, right? You switch this thing in with at full HP, you don't take any damage, you get it in for free, and suddenly your opponent's got to go, right, is this sub-roost? Is it Specs? Is it Scarf? And you don't know because there's no hazards up, so you can't identify boots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just the identification game becomes a lot scarier.
Because
Like with Weavile.
Yeah.
Instead of rocks, they're like, okay, is it boots or is it band? Well, now you don't fucking know because there's no rocks to be set.
Yeah. So it makes things switching in a lot harder.
Yeah.
I feel like Protect becomes a lot more important as a scouting option. But even then, you take
Then
Protect
then
like
then you
Substitute.
yeah, that's the issue. Same deal with Weavile. You protect in front of Weavile and it Swords Dances in your face.
Yep.
So
What
like,
Pokemon would rise up to deal with those? I know Scizor has already risen to OU, just mostly because it's a Kyurem counter.
Yeah.
Unless they somehow hit 2 Focus Blasts in a row, which, let's be honest, they aren't.
well, the interesting thing with Scizor as well, if we talk about that for a second. So Scizor obviously kind of rose up recently, right? It's not showing up in OU for some reason, unless I'm...
Yeah.
Oh no, there it is. I forgot my alphabet. So the interesting thing with Scizor, right, is its like defensive set is Defog, Roost, U-turn, something else I don't remember.
Bullet Punch, probably.
Bullet Punch probably for Cure, right?
Makes sense.
No Defog.
Knock.
Now
Now you've made Mega Scizor a lot better.
yeah, you've
a lot better.
So does that even potentially free up for crazier things like, I don't know, Assault Vest Scissor?
Oh no, get out of here.
Oh,
It needs
no,
Roost.
no, please,
It
no.
needs Roost, I'm sorry.
Uh,
unless we're in VGC and it can run Bug Bite reliably. No.
this will give me. I will get into a little bit more why I say like Assault Vest might not be as bad and it might not need Roost as much in a little bit, but it still probably would like Roost. But like the special defensive set, it would get again. It's another Pokemon that would get access to more move slots. It would be able to run knockoff.
I still think it'd run knockoff just because like the other Pokemon is really good against his Choice Specs Lele. It gets rid of the Choice Specs because it can't Bullet Punch in terrain.
Yeah. You could even be kind of scary. It's like, again, you have that free move slot, you're defensive, you're super bulky. You could just slap Swords Dance on this thing.
Sword Stance, again, going back to Gen 7 UU, Sword Stance, especially defensive Scizor, was a set. And I know this because Scizor could run whatever the fuck it wanted in Gen 7 OU, and probably the same, or Gen 7 UU, and probably the same in Gen 8. Which is why it was the best one in tier unequivocally.
Yeah, so, again, it's giving more options to these Pokemon. But something I kind of want to move on to is we've talked about all these really offensive Pokemon and how scary they may be. Let's talk about the defensive things, because a lot of defensive Pokemon also like the run boost, and I think let's get the big one out of the way. Let's talk about Slowbro.
Oh, it's Slowbro.
So Slowbro with boost. Yeah, that's another big one as well. But let's talk about Slowbro, because Slowbro right now is already a bit controversial, right? With the whole regen, teleport, future sight, boots, really, really annoying to take down. Suddenly doesn't have to run boots.
Runs Helmet Revolver.
Yep.
Just like it used to. And now it doesn't have to worry about spikes.
And becomes a lot easier to just get in and out and be a more solid defensive check.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, I'm terrified of the Slowbro.
Another example is Chansey. No, that's
Yeah.
the reason it dropped to UU, is because Spike Stack became so prevalent that it just became passive. That's why it fell out of favor in Gen 5 and Gen 6. Because Spike Stack was everywhere.
Yeah.
And you put Spike Stack in a metagame on Pokemon with no leftovers that fears knockoff for its life.
I mean, Chansey rose back up.
In Gen 6?
It was in OU with Blissey.
Hmm.
Gen 7, I believe it was Chansey over Blissey.
Yeah, Chansey was over Blissey in Gen 7. And now it's Blissey over Chansey again.
Yeah, because boots.
Just like the good old days.
But now, there's no hazards, which means Chansey, and there's no spike stacking, which means Chansey doesn't get worn down as easily.
And Chansey effectively just becomes better.
Yeah, because so you suddenly have, regen cores with Slowbro and Taunty, who doesn't have to run boots anymore.
Oh no! Imagine
my
no
God.
boots on Torn T. Oh no!
Yeah. With Chansey as well, and suddenly you're not just thinking about like the offensive threats anymore. You're thinking about the bulk of Taunty, or even the potential to not have to run boots on a nasty plot set. Which, I mean, if it wasn't already banned in Nat decks, it would be.
I mean, yeah, because now I can just run Flying MZ freely.
Yeah. So that's something else to think about. These regenerated cores become even scarier because there's no spike stacking to stop them.
Yep, and there's just nothing you can do about it. You just kind of have to hold it.
Yep. So it's not just...
Or gets a free item slot.
Yep.
You don't have to worry as much about boost pulls. Now I can just run leftovers on subsets. Sub-disable Will-O-Wisp Hex. With leftovers. Good games.
Yeah, so it's not just the defense. It's not just the offensive Pokemon. Obviously, you mentioned Dragapult, but and Zera, but the defensive Pokemon get an item freed up as well, because it's not just it's not just the offensive Pokemon that run boosts. It's the defensive ones that run boosts as well, and I think that also makes a difference. That's why I don't know if it would. I think so. That I'm gonna make the take of the video. Okay, this is my take. I think boots and hazards are in a state where they have to both exist, because over time Pokemon have become so powerful that both things are needed to keep everything in check.
Yeah.
Because as we're talking
I don't know if I'd go to that much of an extreme, but I do think that hazards are so over-centralizing that there needs to be some common way to deal with them. And I think Boost is pretty much that, and Boost just puts hazards under a magnifying glass.
Yeah, so, and then, it's the argument of, is it a Boots problem or is it a hazards problem? And like I say, to me, it's the fact, so, let me go through OU and UUBL and say every Pokemon that was introduced in Gen 7 and Gen 8 that is in OU right now. So we've got Corviknight, we've got Dragapult, let's see, we've got Kartana, we've got Melmetal, we've got Rillaboom, Slowking Gala, all 3 of the Tapus, Urshifu Rapid Strike, we've already got a few Gen 8 mons banned from OU, Zeraora, Blacephalon, Dracozolt, Zapdos Gala. That's so many Pokemon introduced in the last 2 generations in OU.
We didn't even talk about Cinderace without Boots. I just realized.
That would be a thing. That would be a thing. That would have got banned way earlier.
Because now we can just run Choice Band. Because remember when everyone started with Choice Band at Cinderace?
Yeah.
Now Galarian Darmanitan gets banned day 2 instead of day 48.
Yeah.
Oh, Galarian Darmanitan. That's something I forgot to mention. With Protect becoming more common, I could see Zen Galarian Darmanitan being more common as well.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zenmo Galarian Darmanitan. And look at Radical Red. Because Rad and I both play Radical Red. Look at Zarm, G-Zarm. Does that type of hold boost for its life.
So, I think the power creep of Pokemon has become so much, that to me personally, both things are almost a necessity to keep things in a sort of balance. Because as we said, take Volcarona. Volcarona has potential to just go, with no hazards. Boots have made it the best it's ever been, but it's still not ban-worthy as of right now due to the fact that it has to run Boots to keep itself, like, relevant, right? It's still good, obviously. It's still incredible. It's position it well, keep hazards off the field, even without Boots, and you're good. But Boots gives it a lot more freedom and giving a lot more of these Pokemon that are so powerful, like Dragapult, like Volcarona, like Kyurem, more freedom makes the metagame a lot scarier.
Yeah.
And that is my take. That I think you shouldn't get rid of either because the Pokemon themselves at this point have become too powerful.
Yeah. Like, just a metagame without hazards would be so foreign. Like, I don't know what most people would think to do. I think it would initially become a lot more offensive because, like, take the metagames where hazards are the strongest. Like, Gen 4 and 5 are really offensive.
They are.
Yeah. Metagames where hazards are the most important tend to be more offensive overall. Other than Gen 2, of course. So I think initially it would become really offensive, and then very quickly it would turn to being very, very defensive.
Yeah.
So
and that would be like Stall would be incredibly overbearing, and like we go back to Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce, now you get rid of Toxic, which is your only way of wearing these Pokemon down.
Yeah, let's talk about Toxic because that I think is a big one. Because that becomes the new way to wear Pokemon down.
Yeah, Toxic becomes a necessity on like defensive Landorus. Earthquake Future knockoff Toxic is probably the main set.
Yeah. So, how important does, for example, Aromatherapy Cleft become?
I think it'd be more so on Blissey.
Or Blissey, yeah.
Considering Clefable would take a ginormous hit due to Magikarp being like a lot less important.
Yeah.
Well, simultaneously less and more because Toxic is now fucking everywhere.
Yeah, Toxic's now everywhere. So does that mean that Magikarp Clefable becomes more valuable because sure it doesn't switch into rocks anymore, but now it's, you know, it can heal status while also being immune to Toxic.
Yeah, I think it becomes less and more. I think overall it's a nerf. I think overall it's a hit to it because hazards are just that important, and there are more ways to deal with Toxic, such as a Steel or Poison type.
Yeah.
Do we think Salazzle would rise up to OE because of this, so it can Toxic everything? Hell no. But it'd be
Definitely
funny as
not.
hell.
It would be funny.
It'd be funny as hell. We need more Pokemon with Corrosion. Corrosion is such a cool ability.
It really is.
It honestly is.
But yeah, as you say, Poison and Steel types, do they rise up as a result, you know? Yeah,
I think Poison types would especially rise up. Because Poison is already such a really good defensive typing that it goes undervalued.
Yeah. But like,
and obviously
really
so is Steel.
I'm looking at like some of the Poison and Steel types in Yu-Gi-Oh! So does like Celesteela rise up? Does Jirachi rise up? I don't think Amoonguss rise up.
Celesteela would be so annoying.
Yeah.
Because you get rid of rocks that are constantly chipping it down. Now, like Leash Protect sets become so annoying.
Yeah, so
incredibly annoying.
So
I used to think Poison wasn't that good of a defensive type, and then I drafted Galarian Slowking, and I changed my mind completely.
Dude,
Poison
how many
is one
times?
of the best defensive types.
Dude,
so good.
How many times have you seen me draft Weezing?
Honestly,
why do you think Shandy hates Vileplume so much? It's insane.
Poison type defensively is such a good typing, and like the thing is right now, like what poison types are in? Or there's the poison types in OU right now are Gala, Slowking, and Pex, and that's it. Those are the poison types in OU, and the next closest are the Nidos because they recently dropped Slowbro, Gala, and Amoonguss, and Tentacruel, but Tentacruel wouldn't rise up.
Ooh, Amoonguss would be pretty damn solid. Because you pair Toxic with Leaf Seed on the same Pokemon, and it's immune to both.
Yeah. So
I think Spore would become less valuable for forcing switches. I think Spore would become a lot less valuable on it. But I mean, hey, Clear Smog. there's a way to stop setup sweepers because suddenly those become a lot more dangerous without having to worry about being
Yeah.
forced out as much.
Though granted, I think two of them that we've talked about aren't really something Amoonguss can deal with, like, Weavile and Volcarona.
Yeah, this is true, but I think Amoonguss would become a lot better in OU. I think it might even
Also regen, yeah, like
yeah,
again, it gives...
all that was regen. Oh man.
Yes, like Slowbro Amoonguss. Oh my god.
Remember that core in Gen 6?
Oh
No.
Return of the Kings.
Yep.
Oh, wait, Talonflame gets a huge buff.
Oh my god, I forgot about Talonflame.
Talonflame and
It's the
Moltres.
return of bird spam.
Staraptor can be OU again.
Staraptor may rise up. You never know.
For the first time in its life, Staraptor can be OU because it can just, with a choice band set, it fucks Stall over so hard.
The
Also,
offensive flyings had a field day with this.
yeah, so they get a lot better. Let's talk about a couple of offensive fires that are in UUBL right now. Blacephalon and Victini.
Oh my god.
I'm a huge Blacephalon enjoyer.
Victini? Oh my god.
Victini, who doesn't care about Stealth Rocks.
It could just V-create all fucking day.
Eject pack V-create 1.
Dude, some teams become so much better, not just because of fire types, because of Torkoal. Because now it can run Heat Rock.
Yeah.
It so freely runs Heat Rock.
Oh, and Zard doesn't have to worry about taking 50% when it's
Yep, that was one I was thinking of. I didn't know if Zard would survive, honestly.
Zard Y.
I think Zard Y actually has potential to get banned.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Zard Y could definitely be banned worthy.
Yeah, because like that's a mon that's really good in a format with Volcarona who runs boots. Zard Y can't even run boots and is still very prevalent, and then doesn't even have to care about Stealth Rocks.
Yeah, I think it might get banned actually.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So it would be like I think the removal of hazards actually helps a lot of offensive Pokemon, but I think it helps a few very important defensive Pokemon that actually would help slow the game down just enough, but I think it would still, the power would still increase so much.
Yeah.
There's one mon I'm surprised we haven't mentioned yet. Hippowdon.
I mentioned it
I think
briefly.
we mentioned it at the beginning. I think Hippowdon would get a lot better.
Yeah, because sand.
Sand?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to run rock, so it freezes that move slot, and I can run Toxic and Whirlwind of the same set. And
Yeah.
Or can run Ice Fang as utility on flying types, which become a lot better as you already mentioned. Hippowdon becomes exponentially better. And Hippowdon's already one of my favorite Pokemon, so I'm really excited to hear that.
Oh, and Gliscor doesn't have to run Rocks Defog anymore. It can go fully offensive or defensive, whatever it wants.
Ooh.
Gliscor is a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
We just didn't think of it because it's not in the game, which I think is criminal. I think Gliscor.
I agree.
It should be.
Give Gliscor Power Whip.
No. Stop it, you.
Yes, it would be funny.
They're scared. They're scared. They're just scared.
It would be funny.
It'd be hilarious.
Yeah, Gliscor would be a lot better. An interesting one to think about, like, we've kind of talked about Skarmory, and, like, that would not be as useful. What about Ferrothorn?
Ooh.
Oh, that's a really good point. It's whole
now Ferrothorn's a lot more valuable because it has Leaf Seed and it's immune to Toxic. And it's immune to both Leaf Seed and Toxic.
Yeah.
And it still has Iron Bars. So, all the Pokemon that are good for rocks become good in other ways.
Yeah. They're still defensive, but they don't just have a move they can just click, like Stealth Rocks and Spikes. Instead, now, it has Leaf Seed.
Ferrothorn is Leaf Seed and Thunder Wave, so I wouldn't go that far.
And Toxic.
But, like, the thing is, Ferrothorn doesn't have rocks anymore, and, like, as stated earlier, the offensive fires just go in now.
Yeah, but then you have to worry about switching it on a Thunder Wave.
Yeah, true.
So, does that make Lum more common? I don't think. It would make... Lum would be, I think, a lot more considered with everything running, status, because you've got to have some way to whittle down Pokemon. So, Toxic is probably going to be on at least 1 or 2 Mons on every team. Oh no.
Thought you just had.
So, if Toxic and status are going to be more important... Oh god, Hexpult.
Oh no!
Yeah, Pult might get banned.
Can we ban it already, please?
Actually, no, it might not, because Pulse is really on a Spike Stack team. Can you get rid of Spike Stack?
Yeah, it loses like that cleaning potential because like you can't spike stack, but like if so many Pokemon are getting hit by Toxic and
Yeah, Pulse only
T-Wave,
runs hacks on Spike sets.
Yeah.
but with your defensive cores having more room to run these status moves, do they does Hexport just become more prominent? So
Yeah, I could definitely see it having more of an impact.
and then obviously then you got to worry it's just still about like DD pull.
Yeah. Because you switch in your special wall thinking, oh, it's Hexpult, and then all of a sudden it whips out the Dragon Dance.
Yeah.
And he stopped. Everybody ganks still till the dragon starts dancing.
Yo, Pult's got some funky fresh moves. He's whipping the Nene.
I hate you.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Oh, I hate me too. Mandibuzz!
Mandibuzz.
No. Stop that unholy speak of yours.
That doesn't have to run
Whenever
defog
ever said
anymore.
anything
That can just afford to run like Toxic U-turn Roost +1.
Wait, how have we not thought about this yet? Dragonite!
Yeah, defensive
Yeah,
Dragonite was something I was thinking about. Like defensive Dragonite becomes better and offensive Dragonite becomes better because you don't have to because multi-scale stays intact so much easier.
D-Knight just becomes stupid. That's what it becomes.
I wonder how this would affect Swampert.
Ooh, I think Swampert would not be OU. Is it still OU?
Yeah, it's still OU.
Yeah.
Okay, it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be.
It would probably fall off.
100%.
Because obviously, like, it's good at what it does, but when it loses half of what it's good at, then yeah.
Zapdos can also just do whatever it wants now.
Zapdos was another one I was looking at. Again, it's these
Yeah.
flying types. It turns out the Pokemon that are weak to it and, feel forced into running boots, when they no longer have to run boots anymore. Yeah, like, I think there was only one point that I can remember since Gen 4 that Zapdos dropped to UU.
Which was Gen 5.
Is it Gen 5?
Yeah, it was Gen 5. It's still UU to this day, and it's the best mod in the tier.
Yeah. And then I think it jumped back up in Gen 6. I think it was
Yeah.
back
Because
up
of
in Gen
defog.
7.
Yeah, it jumped up to in Gen 6 because of defog. I think in Gen 7 it got static. I'm not sure on that.
Yes.
And then, yeah, obviously Gen 8 has boots. Oh, Gen 7 was because card. That's why. It was a counter to card and scissor.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, that can run defensive and, not have to care about boots. It can just run leftovers and become even more tanky, or Rocky Helmet. And people really don't want to U-turn on Rocky Helmet Zapdos.
Yeah.
Unless they're like
Protective
Coco.
Pack of Shifu existed just for that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about pads.
Yeah. So, and if like things like Rocky Helmet, Slowbro become more relevant, then yeah, Urshifu's gonna have a hard time.
There was another mon I wanted to mention, but I can't remember it right now. Gyarados, Mega Gyarados.
Of course you wanted to mention
Still trash mon.
Gyarados.
Still trash mon. Mega Gyarados,
No, best
Mega
Mega
Gyarados
there
garbage.
is.
Bad
It's the best
Pokemon.
Mega there is.
Bad Pokemon, bad player.
None.
But I think Gyarados and, like, to an extent, Salamence, both of those are in a similar kind of vein. Both because they're Dragon Dance Sweepers that are weak to rocks, and both because Snom doesn't like either of them.
What? What are you talking about? I love Gyarados.
Like...
That one's so bad. What?
I had a revelation, but I'll let it. I'll say it after this. Mega Gyarados.
Yeah, well, Gyarados and Salamence, again, both these flying weak Dragon Dance Sweepers who can afford to run an item, become, potentially a lot more prevalent in the tier. Like, they are in UU. I think they had the potential to rise up in UU. Just because, yeah, it turns out that just not being weak to rocks makes you a lot better. means, as we went back to the Weavile like example, when you're able to come in a lot freer and set up, turns out it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah. All
So
right.
my revelation was simple. Rotom Heat, Rotom Fan, and Rotom Frost.
Okay, Fan and Frost we're not giving you. I'm sorry. But Rotom Heat was another.
Rotom Fan and Rotom Frost are broken. What are you talking about?
They're good, but they're not rising to OU. But I actually think Rotom Heat might have a chance at rising because it was OU at one point in Gen 8.
Mm-hmm. I genuinely think Rotom Fan would rise up significantly. Yeah,
Definitely.
it doesn't have an ability, but Electric Flying is broken type.
It really is.
I mean, where is it right
Just
now?
look at
It's
probably in like PU.
it's like
I don't know,
ZU.
actually. ZU. I keep forgetting that everyone else says Z.
Rotom Fan is PU.
It's
Along-
it's PU, but it's PU in brackets, which means it's below PU.
Oh yeah.
So
Dude,
yeah.
Power Creep is such a bitch.
Yeah.
So
Mo's in NU. This is actually so disrespectful.
what did you say was in NU?
Rotom Mo's NU. That's
Oh
so
yeah, right. Well, to be
disrespectful.
fair, when I was playing it, I played NU quite a bit recently, and God, Rotom Mo was so annoying. You couldn't switch into that thing unless you had.
With Flygon gone, Flygon's out of the tier.
Oh my
every single
God.
Yeah, Flygon
Rotom-
just left, and it's like, oh my God, what's my Rotom Mo switching?
Flygon literally held NU together.
Yeah,
And
and now
now
it's
it's
gone. So now you have like Celebi, Goodra. Goodra's probably fine at dealing with it, to be fair. And you'll be fine while I leave it. But Rotom, sure, we can talk about Rotom Fan, but like, it would probably go up a couple tiers, maybe. Maybe rise to NU and contest with Rotom Mo. But Rotom Heat, I actually think would have a chance in OU, because it had a chance before, without Boots, just because of its defensive typing and Nasty Plot, making it a lot more, like, viable to be offensive.
Mhm.
Sure, it loses to defogging potential, but again, Rotom has 4 move slot syndrome, so you can afford to run Paint Split and Will-O-Wisp and what have you.
Yeah, you don't need defog as much, which is amazing.
Yeah. And the typing is incredible. And again, it's another fire type.
Yeah.
So, like, how much more, like, we're talking about this, how much more important to the defensive, like Zapdos becomes so much more important, in my opinion, because of, like, the offensive flying type potential, like Dragonite.
Yeah.
And then defensive water types, you know, like Slowbro become important because of all the fire types. That doesn't help with Victini, mind you, but, you know, it's trying its best.
Mm-hmm.
So...
God, Victini would be so fun. I just think about Mamoswine.
I feel like Mammoth wouldn't be buffed that much.
No, like, if any, like, Mamoswine, like, the interesting thing with Mamoswine is obviously, like, it loses rocks, but, like, who cares? Like, not many Mamoswines actually ran rocks, to my knowledge.
Mhm.
I think it would potentially even hinder Mamoswine because, you know, you don't get that chip to kind of help finish things off with Mamoswine.
That's a very good point. Wait, have we mentioned Moltres yet?
We have not.
Briefly, but we can talk about Moltres and, like, we briefly mentioned, like, Moltres and Talonflame and then got onto a tangent, but yeah, Moltres and Talonflame
Yeah.
we kind of talked about just because, like, we talked about briefly, like,
Moltres
first spam.
Moltres becomes one of the best defensive pivots in, well, I mean, it already is one of the best defensive pivots in UU, but now even more so.
Yeah, I think Talonflame also probably jumps out of NU.
NU? Oh, certainly.
Yeah, and Moltres right now is UU. There's an argument for jumping it up, but I don't know if that would...
I don't think it would jump up to OU.
I think it would have usage in OU, but I don't think it would rise up in tiers. But like, it becomes a really good defensive pivot against fire types, other than, you know, again, the exception of Victini. Because Victini is pain. But like, all the offensive fire types like Volcarona, you know, it becomes a lot better against.
Yeah.
You know, you just run Mystical Fire and suddenly, like, you're, like, that one is not getting, that one is not setting up in your face. As we kind of saw recently.
Thundy T gets really nice.
Oh, Thunderous. I feel like Incarnate is better. feel like Incarnate becomes better.
Thunderous,
Therian.
yeah, both. I mean, both obviously have their place. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Although isn't Thundy I like RUBL or something like that?
They're both UU.
I think. Oh, I thought I was RUBL.
I think it rose up.
Maybe.
Like I think recently. Just yeah, like obviously nasty plot sets are incredible, and yeah.
It's so funny to me how Thunderous went from like banned from OU in Gen 5, over centralized all of VGC in Gen 5, and Gen 6 in 2015, and now it's fucking useless.
Yeah, because they nerfed it into the
Yeah.
ground.
It's so funny to me.
They literally what? So there was the prankster nerfs. There's the Thunderwave nerf. There's the paralysis nerf. There's the swagger nerf. Confusion nerfs. There was
It's
also
so
and
funny to me.
and all the terrains as well, like Misty terrain, and Psychic terrain for prankster. Like so many things were introduced just to stop Thunderous Eye.
They
I know.
created Lele just to make sure Thunderous Eye can't be OU.
So yeah, but like because it now has nasty plot, it actually has a chance, and right now it doesn't have to. If without hazards, it doesn't have to run boots anymore.
I could also see Incineroar going up.
No.
Not the OU, but like
No.
a good
Stop
No.
saying that word.
Incineroar.
Not the cat. No.
Not the funny Tony Tiger.
No. I don't think it would go to OU. It's a good
See,
defensive
Linda, I think-
piece, but
I think
not
people
OU.
should start using. I think people should start using Stealth Rock and VGC if they don't like Incineroar so much.
Stop it.
You have
You know,
two
that's
ways.
actually not a horrible point. Because
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. The
The
only time that I think I've seen hazards work in VGC is against a Sun team where they had Charizard. That was it. They brought Stealth Rocks.
Charizard just dies on switching.
Yeah. So you bring Stealth Rocks against Charizard in VGC, and that is it. That's the only thing I can give you. Other than that, no. You don't get any passes. But like,
I'm just saying, half of Wolf's Quick's PC2 winning team is weak to Rock.
Colossal, Incin, and Moltres.
Moltres.
Yeah. Damn.
Plus, Bolt and Rillaboom are neutral, so I mean, Stealth kind of stick those.
Listen, not as many teams pivot as much as that one. That one pivoted like crazy. Turns out the teams that he does well with, he can pivot around a lot with.
Yeah, so just use Stealth Rocks against Wolf's Click and Spikes.
There is one thing I was thinking about. In Ubers, Hoa would be really happy about
Oh my god.
Ooh.
Oh.
Let's have a quick look at Ubers, because I'm interested.
Right now, Uber's, I think it's Yveltal, which also really loves no rocks.
Yveltal,
I'm in
Uber's
Calyrex
league right now,
Ice,
so I have a little experience.
the
Wait, I
Curums.
showed you the I showed you the prime.
Yo, Lugia with no... Lugia, let's go!
Oh my god.
Let's go, Lugia!
Dude, now I can just multi-scale.
Yeah!
Calyrex Ice would be so happy about that too.
And the Curums. Dude, I haven't thought about this, but Kyurem White with Freeze Drive.
Yeah.
Lunala.
Well, Karen Black
Yo!
is better.
Let's go, Lunala!
UBL's favorite Pokemon, Lunala.
Wait a minute. Pheromosa.
Pheromos is already in Ubers.
Yeah,
Yeah, but, like,
and we're
you
just
really,
briefly
really
talking
like
about
to have-
Ubers. That can just run Sash freely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I guess if we want to really go there, Mega Ray.
Oh no.
I mean, to be fair, Mega Ray probably loses to the Zacians, so it probably needs it.
Yeah,
Doesn't Mega Ray have V-Create?
I believe it does.
Roselli Berry Mega Ray in Gen 8 AG.
Potentially.
really-
Okay, let
A
I want
small
to
part of
count
me picking
this.
up the set, because I can imagine the Zacians are everywhere.
Yeah, they probably are. It's also outspeeds.
Oh yeah, but by a significant amount.
Ah.
Zacian outruns Ray. Because it's like 148 versus 115.
I mean, you could run Scarf, and you would Oko. with V-Create.
But then you're running Scarf, Mega Ray Plasma.
I mean, 1DD also wins you the game, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's also Anything Goes, which, granted, the only time I actually played Anything Goes, I ran Jump Fluff in Anything Goes because I had Infiltrator Sleep Powder. Because everyone was just running Sub. So I was just like, cool, I'm gonna run Infiltrator Sleep Powder and just put everyone to sleep. Yo, Jump Fluff gets better, let's go! Let's go, Jump Fluff!
There's no Flying Gem.
No!
Did Jump Fluff have like a niche in Gen 5 OU? I think it did.
I think
really
it did
funny.
because Chlorophyll.
That's hilarious to me.
Yeah, because like Chlorophyll, Flying Gem, Acrobatics.
And it's like still untiered because it's still very, very bad.
Yeah. But I suppose back to like OU, yeah. I think we've covered a lot of things, but like overall, there's a lot of offense. Like I say, I think the overall is there's a lot of offensive Pokemon that become a lot better. Actually, one thing I want to talk about is some of the Pokemon that currently like. How much does Pokemon being resistant to rocks like help them normally? Because
I think it's less that they resist it and more that they aren't weak to it. Because like take Gen 4 OU for example. We look in the tier, what Pokemon are good that are weak to rock? We have Aerodactyl, we have Dragonite, we have Gyarados, we have Zapdos, and that's it. Like everything else is at least neutral to rock, just because of how important that is, especially in Gen 4 when there's like no team preview and dedicated leads are a thing, and Stealth Rock is just so over centralizing. And if you look at the Pokemon in OU by Technicality and UUBL, you see Ninjask. Like Stealth Rock effectively killed Baton Pass chains because now Ninjask becomes so much worse. You see Togekiss, you see Crobat, you see Abomasnow, which is one of the big reasons why I lost the Weather War so much, because it's weak to Stealth Rock. Same thing for Ninetales.
I mean, Ninetales didn't have it in Gen 4.
I mean, yeah, in Gen 5 especially.
Yeah.
You see Yanmega as well. Like that is a Pokemon with like a spec set could be OU if Rock weren't a thing, but Rock's just crippled it too hard. Because like specs, Bug Buzz, 2 and everything.
Yeah.
So like I think it's less that Pokemon are resistant and more that they aren't weak. And if Pokemon aren't weak to Stealth Rock because Stealth Rock isn't a thing, then OU just becomes so much more increasingly populated by fire types and flying types. And it already is.
It's already got a lot. Although, I don't know, like, if we just take Gen 7, for example, how many Pokemon are weak to rocks there? There are in OU. Blacephalon, Desard,
Volcarona, of course. Pre-Mega Gyarados, I guess. There's Kieran Black.
Pelipper, Torn,
Torn.
Victini, Vulcan Zapdos.
Even that is still a pretty low number. I mean, granted, Rock doesn't hit that many types too effectively. It's just Bug, Ice, Fire, and Flying, and a lot of the best Pokemon of those have secondary typings. But then again, those Pokemon are better because of their secondary typings that make them neutral to Rock. Imagine a tier where Heatran and Landorus are weak to rocks.
Yeah.
They lose their Steel type and their Ground type, and all of a sudden they take 25% from Stealth Rock. You take 2 of the top 3 Pokemon in the tier, and you make them so much worse.
Yep. Whereas instead we're making them better because, Heatran actually probably gets a lot better because of it's a really good switch into fire flying types.
Yeah, it's a really good switch into fire and flying types. It gets a free move slot, and it doesn't get worn down as quickly, and it's immune to toxic.
Yeah.
So Heatran gets a massive buff.
It's,
like it wasn't already like a top. Actually, what are the viability rankings? I'm curious.
I know it's up there. It's just like overall.
I think it's top 5, but.
Overall, Pokemon just get so much stronger, and that's again why I think that like Boots and Hazards kind of have to stay like in the same kind of. They have to stay together to keep a lot of these Pokemon just, in check.
Yeah, it's kind of like a yin and yang.
Yeah, they now have to exist alongside one another. To keep the powerful Pokemon in check. And sure, like, some of the defensive Pokemon, I think, like I say, I think it's less about defensive Pokemon, more about the offensive Pokemon, but I think the few defensive Pokemon, it does help. As we said, Torn to an extent, like, Torn's offensive or defensive, whatever you want to do. But the Bros, we've even talked about Amoonguss, Celesteela, Heatran, defensive Zapdos, defensive Scizor, defensive Lando, Heatran. There's a lot of defensive Pokemon that become better because they get them. Well, not the last two, I think. But, like, Pokemon become better because they don't have to care about, they don't have to worry about boosts. They can just run leftovers and increase their survivability.
Yeah.
Suddenly, instead of, like, calking around rocks, you calc around, you know, do you 2-hit KO after leftovers?
Yeah, or do you 2 KO with Sand Up, or do you 2 KO if you're the second turn of Toxic?
Yeah.
And I still stand by that the absence of hazards would move the metagame in a bulkier trend. Just because the way that everyone stalled from taking over was spike stacking, and you take away the ability to spike stack, and you free up a move slot on like 4 different Pokemon on the stall team, and you can slot in Toxic on all those. I think like defensive playstyles, I think the metagame just becomes a lot less fun in general. Just because it's so much slower paced.
It's already pretty slow.
Yeah.
Because you can't whittle down some of the defensive pieces, but the offensive pieces become better. So what does that truly mean? They don't get the spike stacking, but they free up item slots, and I think on a blind ladder kind of run, like where you're just playing ladder, and you know, like I say, someone brings an Kyurem on like unimpeded, and suddenly you just don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I
still think it's more so the defensive Pokemon that are a problem with boost than the offensive Pokemon. For Weavile and for Kyurem, it's nice, but they were already fine Pokemon without them. I think Kyurem's still the most optimal spec sets, and Weavile would still probably be banned from Beauty with just a choice band set.
Yeah.
Just because of Triple Axle.
Triple Axle is very good, but it's also the unpredictability and the ability to get these Pokemon in more freely, you know. I think, like, if the trend is that, you know, teams do become more bulky, like, I could see Heal Bell Aromatherapy making more waves.
I think Heal Bell becomes crucial.
Yeah, just because so many Pokemon have the free move slot to just run Toxic.
And I think Steel types become even more over-centralizing, because now they're good because they resist Rock and they have better defensive bonuses. But then you take a metagame where Toxic is super important, and then you make them immune to Toxic.
Yeah.
Like, look at Gen 2. Gens 2 and 3, Toxic were super important. What were the best Pokemon in those tiers? Skarmory, Jirachi, Metagross, Steelix, Magneton. Like, those Pokemon that stuck around, and there weren't many Steel types, and all of them defined their generations.
Yep.
So yeah, I think Steel types get a massive buff.
Definitely.
So again, it's like it's all a follow-on effect. If Steel types get a massive buff, does this bird spam that we were talking about, does now that actually become as viable because Steel types are so prominent in the meta? On the other hand, do Fire types really need to rise up to break all these bulky Steels that are running around?
Exactly, and all of a sudden, like, does it limit which birds become powerful? Is it just like, mostly just Galarian Zapdos, which doesn't even mind rocks that much? It just doesn't kill itself as quickly. But I mean, it's still neutral to rock, and it can punch through with post combat because it already outclasses Staraptor. So now Staraptor's out of a job, and it's still probably UUBL. It's not UU.
There's nothing we can do to make it UU. I mean OU.
We just can't.
Yeah.
We had a chance when Zapdos Gal wasn't a thing, but not anymore.
Yeah, I think we need another Dex pet, and we need to put only Staraptor and Shroomish. And if we just put those two.
I mean, to be fair, if we get a Gen 4 only Dex in Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, then I think Staraptor actually comes to OU.
No, it wasn't an OU in Gen 4.
Yeah, no, I mean a Gen 4 only Dex.
I think it stayed roughly the same.
Like, if we took the Platinum, like, Dex, like, only Pokemon that were in, like, Platinum, I think it would be OU. Granted, the most centralizing Pokemon in the game would be Garchomp, but...
Yeah, it'd be Garchomp, and then it'd be Heatran, and then it'd be Jirachi. Actually, no, not Jirachi.
Oh, Garchomp with no rocks.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Chomp actually becomes significantly changed.
Yeah.
Not better or worse, just changed. Well, I mean, it would run like what? Stealth Rock, Toxic Dragon Tail, Earthquake, maybe Protect.
Yeah. Suddenly it loses some of its... Because, like... Well, how important is Dragon Tail now? Maybe you want to keep things in. Because, you know, there's no reason to... What reason are you having to phase things out? You're not getting Stealth Rock chip.
Actually, this is kind of something, because we were talking a lot about how much better Steel and Poison types we get, so how would Fairy types be affected?
Ooh. Hey, I'm all down for nerfing fairies in some way.
Because the poster child of Fairies in OU is Clef, which we already talked about would be getting a lot worse. Or not a lot worse, but it'd be getting noticeably worse.
Actually, there's a big fairy type that would have to rise up. Finny.
Yeah, Feeny would rise up exponentially just because of Misty Terrain blocking Toxic. And because it's a great stall breaker with taunt mindsets.
Yeah. So Finny would actually get better. Like, exponentially.
Finny would get a lot better.
And it doesn't have to take rocks on switching.
Coco, I think Coco becomes worse.
Coco probably gets a little bit worse. But it doesn't have to worry about rocks when pivoting, which I think is a bit of a big deal. Like,
Bulu remains unchanged.
Bulu gets worse.
Bulu's just bad. I'm so sorry to anyone who ever tries using Bulu over Rillaboom. Why are you doing this to yourself? Just use Rillaboom.
Yeah.
If it's taken, then just grab a Tangela's better.
Yeah, take fucking Groddle instead.
Take Groddle, take Cleffa.
Take Wacky.
13 points.
Use those 13 points to grab yourself, like, I don't know. What do we have for 13 points?
You can get a Sludge Bomb immunity, because Boo already feels Sludge Bomb, and you get Spikes.
So
we've already talked about how important Spikes are.
Yeah.
For 13 points, you can get yourself a Mega Heracross. Who wouldn't want that?
Oh,
I wouldn't.
I would not either.
Give Mega Heracross Rock Polish.
Wait, I actually love that idea.
That I am concerned, but also excited.
What are you excited? What are you excited for?
I don't know. It sounds funny.
With 185 attack with a stat that breaks through subs and stronger than Mega Horn. I don't know if I'd call that funny.
Be funny though.
No, give it Fell Stinger as well. Just because. Just don't Mega, use Fell Stinger, kill something, and have Moxie.
So suddenly a +4, a +2 with a
Wait,
rock
we're
polish.
talking about Fellstinger Megas. Mega Beedrill.
Yo, Mega Beedrill becomes like not absolute garbage.
It's not horrible. It's not completely horrible anymore.
It becomes Vinyl and Yu-Yu. Well, okay. In my opinion, Beedrill is a really good Pokemon in draft. It's really good in draft, in my opinion. Wait, did you just throw up off of my trash take?
No, sorry, that was my brother making a weird noise at the same time.
I knew
Silence! Silence!
I guess we can briefly talk about the last Tapu in OU, which is Lele, which we kind of talked about. You know, it's like it's not as good at spamming Moonblast, but if poisons become more relevant, then you know, Psychic. Depends on how much more poisons become relevant, but if steals are the ones that become relevant, Lele is still very strong, but it's not dropping out of OU, but I think it loses some of its utility. Because steel types become like so much more prevalent, unless you start running defensive Lele with Toxic.
Maybe Latios would be seen with Aura Sphere.
I could see the Latios actually.
Aura Sphere.
I could see the Latios like doing well. Just because, like, yeah, like Latios would like just it can come in so much freer and just like sure it can't pivot out, but like the coverage it gets just being able to come in and just start nuking things without the fear of Stealth Rocks.
I think Mega Beedrill would be really good. It's a really fast, really strong pivot, and then you take away its biggest weakness. Yeah. And you can just, like, because Weavile and Beedrill actually have similar goals, which is kind of funny to me. Like, they actually have surprisingly similar goals. So like it's kind of the same thing where like Beedrill can take like I don't know a fucking Sludge Bomb from Gengar or something. It can take 2 of those before it has to switch out. But no, rocks. All of a sudden now it can take Sludge Bomb and Shadow Ball from Gengar at least once.
Yeah. Ooh,
Something
actually,
like
here's
that.
an interesting one. Sorry, to cut you off. Crobat.
No, I thought of Crobat. I'm sorry, I think that's so bad. Super Fang is really nice though. Super Fang is really
Super
nice.
Fang and a flying type that's immune to Toxic is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But how
But,
about
like-
Mega Pidgeot?
Probably still not that good. Becomes a little bit better, but
It's still worse than Torn.
yeah, still worse than Torn, like infinitely.
Maybe not infinitely, but it's still worse than Torn. Plus it doesn't take Torn doesn't take the mega slot.
Yeah.
And there's no like legendary slot. Imagine if there was 1 legendary slot per team.
That'd be
Like legendaries and mythicals, you only get 1. I think Landorus would actually just take over everything.
yeah. I don't
And you would never see Zeraora, you would never see Heatran.
never see
you might see-
Zapdos, never see a Tapu, no
That'd be
Mew, no
hilarious,
Melmetal, no Kyurem, no depends if Cortana counts. I think Cortana probably counts.
I think Arcana counts.
Yeah.
I count Ultra Beasts as legendaries because
Yeah.
they're broken except for Guzzlord.
Though to be fair, you could sacrifice Lando for Chomp.
Torn. Chomp? Yeah. I
Yeah,
would-
instead of
as a
having-
legendary?
Not as a legendary, no, but like as like if you still need like ground type, you could use you could
Or
use
in Natex you can use Gliscor. And
In
I think I see more Gliscor than Landorus in Natex anyway.
yeah.
Gliscor's broken.
But yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything. The metagame would probably steer a little bit more offensive before kind of going into a very bulky, stally kind of metagame where Toxic and Sand become almost like essential to whittle down teams. So things like Hippowdon just like become so much more relevant.
Do you think a Hippowdon or Tyranitar would be better in this metagame?
I think
Just
Hippowdon.
like-
I think Hippowdon.
Really?
Yeah, I think Hippowdon. I think the fact that it can heal off is like actually that valuable. Whereas
Unless
I mean,
we give Tyranitar
Hippowdon
Shore
has
up.
always... Yeah, Hippowdon has always had a place in Sandcell teams. Also, Hippowdon should definitely get Shore Up. Give Hippowdon Shore Up, please. Please do it.
no,
While we're at it, we give it to Tyranitar as well.
No, just to Hippowdon. 'Cause Shore Up's
listen,
a
listen.
Grass
It's
type.
not as bad as the suggestion I heard, where they were like, "Yeah, we should give Hippowdon teleport."
We should
Why?
give Hippowdon Defog.
No,
Why
stop
not?
it. Because Hazardon's a thing. Hey.
And it gets rid of screens.
I don't. Screens aren't going to be relevant. Hyper offense isn't going to be as relevant as I think we like. It might. It would. It will like try to be relevant at first because things are like, okay, yeah, we can break things easier because we have all these
Just
life
in-
orbs and choice bands that we can free up. But then
Just in case, we're gonna give Hippowdon Psychic Fang, so it can still break screens.
I'd be okay with that.
Honestly, yeah, same.
But yeah, I think it would slow down. It would surprisingly slow down the metagame.
Substantially.
Yeah. And some Pokemon start to become essential, like, you know, Sand becomes essential. Potentially, like, some form of ways to remove Toxic, because that becomes a lot more prevalent. You know, like, I think it's going to be very interesting. It would be a very interesting thing to see, at least, like, as a test. But, I think as a long-lasting thing, I think I'm happy with the way things are. As much
Yeah,
as
I
people
agree.
like to...
I'm very happy that we have a metagame with Rocks and Boots and with Rat's brother constantly harassing him.
I'm very sorry you will have to hear that. He's fine now, don't worry, I think.
Yeah, now he's taped together. He's fine.
But yeah, I think that is it. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for joining us on this thrilling, innovative, scholastic journey. Scholastic journey, that's the word.
Yeah.
God, I haven't been to a Scholastic book fair in years.
I don't know, this was something I really wanted to talk about. I was going to talk about it regardless, but I thought like having some extra opinions would be kind of something nice to add to this this discussion. So,
Some singles experts.
but yeah, thank you, Snom and Rat, for joining me for this. Thank you very much to everyone watching this, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
You'd better have a great day.